mainlined. It's so in your face, hidden in plain sight. They have to uh, basically roll it out in fictionalized Hollywood, dramas. So I don't know if you ever saw this movie Geostorm, but I just want to play the trailer real quick.
Absolutely.
For the viewers.
No, this is a classic example. Of
for
revelation of the method, like right in your face.
We're gonna have to release the video of this segment because the video says more than the audio. But if you guys just want to look up the trailer to the movie Geostorm, it came out in 2017. It really tells you all that you need to know about where the technocracy has gone, especially in relation to our weather.
Skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
So if you watch the movie, it's just it is the unintended consequences story. It is Blowback. It is technology without ethics gone awry.
Right, and even in the trailer, you see them bombing Eye of the Hurricane. So
Right.
it's not a far-fetched thing.
Trump may have watched the movie and is subconsciously it's manifesting into his policy choice.
Well, I mean, even if you look back at something like Operation Fishbowl, where they launched all these megaton bombs into the airspace and see how high they could go, and the explosions that they caused could have had all kinds of unintended horrible consequences. But it just showed that there was a pretty substantial amount of curiosity applied to just bombing things in nature.
Right.
The celestial heights, seeing how far and high these bombs could go.
Right. And I don't know if you have put much credence in what guys like Stephen Greer talk about, but it's not just Stephen Greer. He's bringing forth people in the government who have reported that UFO activity has increased dramatically around nuclear bomb sites. And what that means exactly is the subject of debate. Is it other beings perhaps in a parallel dimension or an orthogonal dimension who are disrupted by this activity in some weird way that we don't quite understand? Or is it other dark factions of terrestrial governments who are interested in our activity, who actually have access to advanced technology? That, because there are reports of UFOs being present during nuclear tests and the nuclear bombs being disarmed.
Right.
Have you heard of that?
Yes, and they've kind of even updated the acronymical terminology behind UFOs. Unidentified flying object has now become unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs.
Didn't Hillary mention that on Jimmy Kimmel? Right.
Right.
She corrected.
Right.
Corrected.
And UAPs.
Right.
Right. So, because
She's in the know.
well, sure, and all these references to that highest glass ceiling. I mean, is this connected to Operation Fishbowl? Like, what were these tests really for?
Right.
Ultimately, I mean, was it a purely metaphorical thing that she was, referencing in terms of, equality or gender pay gap? Who knows? But ultimately, there's all these little cryptic references that these people in power constantly sprinkle.
Oh, sure.
Everywhere.
Right.
And if you look further into maybe some of the finer details behind those mentions, behind those little passing phrases that they use, you'll find that there's a lot more intricacy to it than initially meets the eye on.
Oh, sure.
First mention.
Word magic, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's not a far-fetched notion at all. And then it goes into the whole concept of, well, okay, so we're talking atomism here. We're talking like nuclear theory. We're talking radiation and isotopes, and that whole spectrum of theory applied to how to make big explosions. But ultimately, we've known how to make huge explosions because we just have a fascination with huge explosions. Like, we don't necessarily know the nitty-gritty details of every single mechanism or rhyme and reason for why something explodes the way it does. Although we like to gesticulate and promulgate ideas about what it is.
On that note, I mean, this is tangential to the over. I think this is tangential. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. But I learned in the last couple of years that there really isn't a whole lot of radiation-related injuries from the atomic bombs that were allegedly dropped in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And there are even some folks who, now they may not be alive anymore, but they lived a full life. And they were involved in both explosions. They were in the blast zone of, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And these people didn't develop tumors. They, for all intents and purposes, received, third-degree burns and stuff like that, and they were scarred from that, but they didn't develop cancers and stuff or birth defects. That's the other thing is there have been studies on the level of birth defects, and if you ask most Americans about what we did in World War II, of course everybody recognizes it's atrocious, but there is this concept that that Japan has basically been suffering from the radiation fallout, and there have been all these birth defects. That's not true.
Right.
So
there's not a whole lot of per population data to suggest that it's that much of an
it's not even a
outsized-
deviation that's statistically significant compared to, and there are other reasons. Like, we can just look this up.
But I mean, all of this notion of all the half-life and radiative decay that lasts for thousands of years and whatnot. All of this kind of fear mongering is very much connected with the idea that all the world powers have so much insight into how to destroy the world that we're in a state of mutually assured destruction, and we're always on the precipice of complete and total global explosion due to
and this was part of the problem is all of these technologies are largely, well, they are almost 100% experimental. that we don't really know what we're doing
right.
until we do it, and then it's too late.
And then it's like